Hi, my name is April Shoemaker, and I'm here to help make parenting easier. So, my catchphrase is stop, look, listen, and relate. And then ask what would empower him. That will get you out of your head. You know, even if you, for 5 minutes a day, you get out of your head long enough to be present to your child. Should be more than 5 minutes, but at a time, maybe 5 minutes at a time. Get out of your head. Stop all that worrying that you got going on and just be present with your child and looking. My son had, when he was 15, we bought a dog. And my son came home from school, and my son was very studious. He came home and I can hear him telling the dog, no, leave me alone. And so I said, I didn't know if this would work, but it made sense that it would. I said, if you give the dog 15 minutes of your undivided attention, he'll leave you alone. It was like both of them needed that. My son needed to, unwind from school, and the dog needed 15 minutes of attention. But my son's response was like, I'm in the room. So often we do that, right? I'm in the room. What else do you want? And so you need to be present. So he spent 15 minutes with the dog, played with them. Then they both went about their work, and he wasn't yelling at the dog anymore. So it does work. 15 minutes. That's all you got. So what I had the practice of was stopping I had chaos in my mind, and I had a lot of emotional crap going on. I had a lot of childhood triggers going on. And so for me to just stop and look and listen and ask what would empower him made a huge difference, because I made different choices than I would have if I was automatic, if I was triggered, if I'm trying to do what my mother did, if I'm trying to do the opposite of what my mother did, so it's really a great practice. And really, we're like the Flintstones preparing our kids for the Jetson age. We need to stop, look, and listen. A lot of times they know more of what's going on than we do, I see, they don't have Radio Shack anymore, but I remember people going into the Radio Shack store, and the dads are like clueless, and the kids are showing them what to buy and what they need and and it's still like that where, we used to make the joke of the kids know how to, program the VCR, and we don't know how to do any of it. So listen to your kids, respect them. If you respect them from birth, you respect them, they will respect you. They won't be the disrespectful teenager if you're giving them respect, because they are just modeling you. So I just want to say briefly, the first part is when they, first come out, first year, you're just holding them and responding to them and mirroring them and playing with them and finding out what they want. And I know there's lots of rules still, parenting of the 50s, like don't rock them to sleep, then they'll always want it. If people would tell me that, I would say, yeah, he's going to call me from college. Mom, I can't sleep. Like, no, he's not. He never called me from college. Anyways, yeah, there's a lot of bad practices from the 50s. Don't do that. So they used to think that holding them too much would spoil them, but it's actually that if you hold them as much as they need it, then it fills them up. The ones who are begging and whining to be held are the ones who didn't get enough. So you're not spoiling them by holding them too much. They are naturally driven to be independent and to be out on their own. So you don't need to teach them that. You fill them up for the first year. Then the second year, you're like the gymnast spotter while they run around the house. And you're just like learning from them. We need to forget about we're teaching them stuff. We need to start learning from them. And especially with all the knowledge that is around on the internet, whether they hear it accidentally or whatever, they're like sponges, and so they will just use it. And especially the first 3 years, that's when you're building the foundation for them to grow and prosper. So I did not get that foundation built. I was terrified of my mother. And so growing up in that way makes it very difficult to have a natural childhood. And so if something happened, it wasn't like I fell on the ground. It felt like I fell into a bottomless pit that I had to crawl myself out of the pit, build another false bottom to have a ground to stand on for a while. And we don't want our kids having to undo or heal from their childhood. Please, we got to stop child parenting of the 50s. Because it wasn't like it was abusive parenting. It was just parenting by narcissists, but parenting of the 50s, and they, followed the program. And don't do it. Don't do it. So part of respect is also apologizing. I got triggered a lot, so I was always apologizing. I remember my son wasn't quite 4, and I said, there was nothing that you did that deserved that response. So the next time he turns around when I did it, and he's like, there was nothing I did that deserved that response. All right, that's true, So apologizing was not part of the 50s. So you have to, it's like we're treating them like a person. You're not treating them like an adult. You're treating them like a person with respect and listening. My son was, I think, about 3, and I'm getting ready to go to the store. I'm in my head. I don't even want to go. I'm hot. And he stops me. He says, you can't just throw me in the car. You need to ask. What? I just stared at him for the longest time because I'm thinking, well, that's a really strong sense of self. But I'm also thinking all the parenting stuff, like just get in the car and do what I said. I'm thinking my inner teenager's going, you can't tell me what to do. We're like so bad. And so I just stared at him until I could think of an empowering response. And I finally go, well, it's not up to you whether we go to the store or not, but I apologized for throwing him in the car like the diaper bag, because I could see I was doing that. Purse, diaper bag, we're go, set, kid, okay, go. So I apologized for doing that and said I would tell him in the future what we have in mind. And that made a huge difference. He got right in the car. The other thing is I want to be a good parent, so I'm going to take my son to the park. 30 minutes is really about as much time as I can take. And I say we're going to the park. He thinks all day we're going to go to the park. So when I say it's time to go, he's very upset because I'm interfering with his dream of being at the park all day. So I found, I just need to communicate my intention and my expectations. It's really simple, but we don't even think about doing that. Because half the time we haven't even articulated it. But I said, okay, so I started saying, we're going to go to the park for 30 minutes. I'll give you a 5-minute warning when it's time to go. And then we're going to go, quietly. Or when you go to the store, they think everything is free at the store. And you're like, you can barely afford what's on your list. And you're going, but you don't tell them that. You got to start telling them that. You start telling them, okay, we're going to go to the store. We're only going to buy the stuff on my list. You could even go through the stuff on the list. You could draw pictures so they can tell you what's on the list. Make it so that they're involved with what you're doing. And so you're not just trying to be controlling or demanding. There was 3 kids at a restaurant, and the parent was getting really mad and upset. And it's totally different when we go to a restaurant, because behavior that's acceptable at home, it might not be acceptable to us when we go out in public, because we're thinking of all the other people that are listening to our kids screaming or demanding or being rowdy or throwing food, But if that's okay behavior at home, then you got to practice being at a restaurant. First of all, I would get rid of the screaming. Don't let them scream for what they want. They have to use their words. And teach them. So you could set up your table like a restaurant and explain to them, okay, this is what our behavior is when we go out to a restaurant. And when I say, I want you on your best behavior, this is what I mean. And you practice it, and then you go out in public. Because once you're out in public, you forget. It's like you're like worried about what everybody else is thinking, and that wasn't even part of the thing that you were thinking before you wanted to do this great thing and have a great meal out, treat them, all that stuff we go through that we want to do to provide for our kids. So the other thing that I used was the Gessell Institute. I'll put all the links below, but the Gessell Institute has books, your 5-year-old, your 1-year-old, your 2-year-old, for every age. And so some of the problems that we have is that if we're making them wrong for age-appropriate behavior, that just confuses them. They don't understand that. Because they think, I'm just being a kid. What's the problem that we're yelling at them for? And so the book really helped me, because I had a really good time. And 4-year-old, I loved the 4-year-old. I thought, this is great. I finally have figured out parenting. Then he turned 5, and I was like apologizing every 2 minutes. because he shifted and I didn't. So I would go to the Gessell book, like when he's 4.5, and I would read because their thinking changes, their emotions change, how they're viewing the world changes. And it's good to know that beforehand. So I would go to read. I only read like a half a page. It wasn't like I read the whole book. I read like a half a page. Sorry, Gessell Institute, but really great information. And if you read more, they have like all the stuff on how to have a age-appropriate party and what to expect from their behavior and how to set them up with chores and play and all this. Lots of really great information. So you don't have to go and figure out everything to know about child development, how their brain works. You don't need to know all that. Just go be a half a page ahead of them, go read the book. And there was another thing I was doing. I thought I needed more structure. So my son's in kindergarten. I'm listening to Dobson tapes, how to have more structure, and Love and Logic, great books, right? But my son comes home from kindergarten, he says, I want you to stop listening to those tapes. I don't like how you're acting afterwards. Now, he could get in trouble for that. From a parenting of the 50s, he would get in trouble for talking to me like that, right? But he's right. I was trying to do something artificial. It wasn't that he doesn't want structure. He didn't want me being, trying to be something I'm not, which was weird to him. So, listen, really, just listen to them. They'll say things that might make you mad, but you got to see the truth in it. And it just offers respect. Now, I was also very interested in empowering him. I was a single parent. So I wasn't saying, come let mom do that. No, let me show you how to do that so I never have to do that again. I wasn't pushing him away, but I was empowering him and giving him, like he wanted tie shoes. And I was like, Velcro's fine for me. And so I said, okay, as soon as you learn how to tie your shoe, you can have some tie shoes. And so then it was great when we worked with kindergartners. He's 4, they're 5, and they don't know how to tie their shoes. I'd come, Jason, come show them. So they learned how to tie their shoes really fast when somebody younger shows them how to do it. So there's lots of tips and things that I have in my workshop to share with you. I went a little longer than I planned, but just look at the links below, and good luck, have fun, and just remember, love them where they are. Thanks.